Where do you guys have Turd?
29.
I've got him at 20. I've got him at 28. That's too low.
They're all the same guy. Right, exactly. They should just share one jersey. That way when they go in, they're just like, here's the jersey. Go ahead.
Totally. They all worship Tucker Kraft as their king. You know what I mean? He's like the alpha of them.
Yeah, they eat lunch out of the same lunch pail. Like, there's just a big lunch pail, bunch of sloppy joes in there. Yeah, exactly.
It's like Mary Poppins's bag of ham sandwiches. It's just endless ham sandwiches.
They each have an ice cream sandwich in there. They've got a thermos.
Maybe a juice box and a yogurt. Sights and sounds and edges found. You will now get down with the Underground, the show that goes to the depths of the Dynasty landscape. Dynasty Underground is back. I am Trav, hosting, West Coasting, as usual. Here with the boys, Jax Falcone. How are you tonight, brother? Happy Memorial Day, which is something that I now celebrate, guys. I'm one of you.
Welcome.
So happy Memorial Day. It was a great day off.
Yeah, it's a big day for Washington, B.C., so I know.
Absolutely. It's our first one. First one. Yeah, it's great. And of course, in the corner office with the view, but casual Kuvatakis on this Memorial Day Monday. How you doing today, brother?
I am good. Enjoyed the holiday. God bless the troops. And I've just been trying to racking my brain to figure out, I'm in best ball drafts. I'm in dynasty startups, wrapped up the rookie drafts, and just trying to figure out where everybody belongs. And I don't know. I got a lot of ideas floating around in my head trying to sort through this. So that's how I spent most of my day off, is trying to figure this out. And I don't know if I've got good answers, but I'm excited to talk about it with you guys.
Yeah, well, the ideas will be flowing tonight, of course, because it's a Dynasty Rankings episode, fellas. We love our rankings episodes here on Dynasty Underground. A few weeks ago, we supplanted some of these rookies into the Dynasty landscape. This week, we are going to look at some of those overall, positional Dynasty rankings, but more of a veteran lens on them. And as you mentioned, Joe, we're in startups. We're going to be talking a lot about where they should go in startups, maybe some arbitrage plays that we've found, maybe some pockets of value that we're attacking. So I'm excited to get into it, as always, and I know you fellas are. Of course, please go subscribe on that YouTube channel, The Undroppables. The Undrafted with one Jax Falcone is now on the YouTube channel. We got a couple episodes out there. Really excited to see that, and the reception has been good. Jax, how you feeling about that? 2 shows? Like, you're officially a YouTuber. You should tell your kids that.
I was gonna say the people just wanted to see more of my pretty face. Is really all it was. That's it.
Yeah. And I wanted to edit more of your pretty face, man. So, really excited to do that. No, the first 2 episodes with JJ Zacharyson and Shane Manila were absolutely fantastic, and looking forward to more, my man. So yeah, subscribe to that YouTube channel, and it's only getting better from here. But talking dynasty ranks, guys. You guys are in startups. I'm in a startup too. Joe, we started one yesterday. We are co-managing one, all 3 of us, with Chalk as well. And that's going to be hilarious. But
yes,
I think it's fun because we're uncovering some new things. We're seeing what these new players look in like on a draft board, compared to how we rank them, how we value them, where we might have taken them. So it's been a really cool exercise. And as I've dove into my dynasty rankings, there's been some questions that have become very apparent, guys. And we're going to start at quarterback, where I might be the lone wolf here, but I actually don't have Jayden Daniels as my dynasty quarterback 1, but I've seen in the startups I've been that Jayden Daniels is the 101 in all of them. So wonder where you guys stand on your rankings. Jax, will start with you versus where he's showing up in these startup drafts as 101 or bust.
I think he's clearly the 101 just because I think he offers the same type of floor and upside as Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, but with youth and value on his side. The thing I've been finding interesting, and maybe you guys have been in some different leagues, we've been in some together, some separate, the thirst to move up into the elite quarterback area, that 1 through 3, not quite as vibrant a trade market as I've seen in times past. I think it's been a little bit difficult as I'm in a league where the 101 almost timed out because he wanted to trade the pick. And what he ended up having to do is he really pissed off the whole league, ended up taking a player at 101, Jayden Daniels, and then traded him subsequently once he was selected. So really had to work hard to get that trade done. I thought he did a great job with it regardless, but I think that those moves where they were very, very easy and very, you almost had people clamoring for that pick and competing against each other. Now, a lot of people, you'll hit them up for that and they kind of go, nah, I'm good. And they're just out and they have no interest, no matter the cost, to move up. And that's a new world for a lot of dynasty players.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing that too, Jax. I had a 102 in this startup that Joe and I are in with Chalk as well. Had a 102. I had it farmed out there. I was on the clock for a little while. I had some errands to run and nothing really was coming my way. The guy who had the 104 made me some nominal offer for like moving up 2 picks in a couple different rounds later. That's not doing it for me. Even though I'm going back 2 spots from 2 to 4, still wasn't doing it for me. I needed a premium asset. Basically, if you're moving outside of that top 3, you're moving outside of the tier 1 quarterbacks, right? Daniels, Allen, and Lamar Jackson, who was selected in this draft. I actually did move back to 4. What I did was I just made a few bigger move ups earlier in the draft just to kind of get some action flowing. We talked about that on a recent episode as well, is just getting the action flowing and getting your name in the trade talks. And so I wanted to do that. So I took probably less than I wanted to. I didn't get a first out of it. The guy didn't want to give up any of his 2026 picks. A third wasn't going to do it for me, but even like a first or second, he didn't want to give up that early. So I found the same thing, Jackson. I thought the value probably should have been a little bit better, but it was what I could get to move back, and I didn't necessarily want to be in that tier. I took Jamar Chase at 104, and I'm working on quarterbacks from there, but I thought it was interesting that the market is definitely not as frisky as we've once seen it, even for such a small move up like that.
Yep.
See, what I've noticed, first of all, as far as Jayden Daniels being the 101, there were 2 different startups that I did where I got the opportunity to choose my draft slot relatively early, and both times the 101 was available. And both times I took the 102 thinking, I'm going to take Jayden Daniels right here. Someone's going to take Josh Allen. I'll take Jayden Daniels. I've got a slight advantage in the second round. That's who I want anyways. And both times Jayden Daniels went 101. I was like, well, all right, now I'm trading this pick. Right? So Jayden Daniels is seemingly, I've done 3 now this season. I'm in the middle of the 3rd. We're about to start the 4th, but Jayden Daniels has kind of like unanimously been the 101. So that's kind of the new reality that we're in, at least in startups. I don't know if it's like this in like actual regular season value, but in startups, Jayden Daniels is the 101.
I think the other thing that protects Jayden Daniels is we all, like football fans, watched him and we're like, he's awesome. He's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
like it's not just like, oh, fantasy production and he's young. It's like, no, and he's awesome. So it's kind of a solved equation. Like I have no concerns going forward. So that insulates his value too.
Yeah, but to the other point that you guys were making about the difficulty in trading back, just to go back to last week's episode, this is why I talked about being the guy, right? You got to lose that first round trade back because nobody wants to trade those firsts early, right? They will. Once the floodgates have opened, once the arm race has started, once other people start throwing around first round picks, then they'll be more willing to do it. You're more likely right now to get a first round pick trading a second round pick than you are trading your first round pick. You're best off just moving back a little bit and waiting for the floodgates to open, which is what I've been doing. And, like I said, I'll lose the first 2 or 3 trades in order to start collecting those first and that value in the future, as long as I'm staying within, the Goldilocks zone of, filling out my roster and not getting, 14th round picks back. Right. So
I'll speak to that real quick too, because I did that recently in the startup I'm in, and made a trade that I don't normally make. I normally like to just move back and gain 1 first at a time and sort of get value that way. It's hard to get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, in one trade. That's almost ridiculous. Nobody has them, first of all. So what was interesting in this particular league is that the guy who traded the 101 traded it to the guy with the 103. And so he got like his 26 and 27 first round pick. So he had his own 2, and those 2 and he wanted to move up for Brock Bowers and gave me 3 first-round picks to do so. Just gave me 3 first-round picks, basically bought the pick. I've never really done that. It's a little bit of a choose your own adventure, but I felt like it set me up as like, now I have like 5 extra first round picks or whatever.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that people have come to me just trying to buy any pick that I have for a single first. They're just like, you want them, don't you? So what's interesting is I am the guy, as you point out. Like they're just all coming through me. Now, most of the deals have been kind of doo-doo because they're giving me future firsts for players, just one, for players that are first round picks right now. Like, it's like Ibuka's on the clock, or RJ Harvey, or, Quinshon Judkins. And they're like, here, a first. It's like, yeah, I'm not giving you I'm not going to take a 27 first for what equates to a first right now. We need to get, further down. That's something to just always understand. It's like, if you're drafting players that are worth a first, why trade a first to get, anyway, long story short, but I think that's something where you can get creative if you want. I could have turned that down, but I was like, you know what? This puts me in a unique position to kind of be able to, if I can compete in year one. You did the same thing in your startup. It's like, it just is so tempting to grab a bunch of future capital and go from there,
Yeah, real quick. I know we're supposed to be talking about rankings, and we have talked about one player. We have talked about one player thus far, but here's kind of my barometer, right? Because I just did one where it was just very much a dope trade, but I did it just so that I could become that guy that people start offering first to, right? So I had traded back, then I traded back again. And then I traded back a third time. So we're in the second round. We just entered the third round of this startup that Trav and I are in. And I've already made an insane amount of trades. People are like saying that, joking they need a spreadsheet to figure out what I'm doing. But I've picked up an extra first. But I did do something that I kind of had seller's remorse for. But here was my thought process, right? It was the 210. I had already picked up 2 extra seconds, 2 extra thirds in my move backs, and I got Bijan Robinson at like the 2.03 or something stupid, right? And so I traded out of the 210 for an 8th round pick and a first from a guy that wouldn't give me a first earlier in the first round, right? He was willing to do it once the second round came along. Now that sounds like a dumb trade, and it is. I knew that it was, but once I got this guy's first, all of a sudden, first round offers, first round picks started coming my way, right? So that's the whole strategy. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's the whole strategy. And my justification was this: in my other startup that I did, I got Jackson Dart in the 8th round. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm getting a first round pick next year, and with this 8th round pick, I can still get a first round pick from this year's draft. So it's basically 2 firsts for whoever was available at the 210. And I was looking at Trey McBride. I was like, it's kind of a discount, but I'm going to do it. And then I traded back into the 301 with our boy Chalk, gave him a second and a third and my later 3rd round pick, and I got Trey McBride anyway. So that's kind of like what I'm talking about, is once you get that draft capital, now you can play the parkour. But also, I started getting way more first round pick offers, and I'm going to get a couple more as we go. And that's the whole, it's so hard to wrap your head around because it feels like you're losing, but it is the domino that needs to fall for you to win. We're rehashing last week's episode though. So let's keep going on the rankings. I'm sorry, Trav.
Absolutely. Jack.
Well, I think it matters too, because you're talking about how these rankings affect your transactions, and that I think that's why it matters. So because here's the thing, you just actually pointed it out that there's a Jackson Dart potentially available in the 8th round. Now,
every time.
Is it every time? I'm excited if it is, because I can't wait to smash that home in my startup. But great. But can you hold on to release this? Don't release this episode just yet. I'll give you the signal when it's okay to release this one.
Yeah.
Acts and darts, and don't tell anybody.
I'll just have 2 versions exported, one that cuts that part out.
Yeah, just a Xavier Legette.
Yeah, every time you're gonna get Xavier Legette in the 8th round.
Exactly. Yes, please. Just totally do that.
What round are you in right now? Just so we know. You're probably fine. Ooh,
Fifth.
a little close.
Getting
A little
yeah,
close.
we're a little too
That's
close for
oh,
comfort.
yeah. May the odds be ever in your favor, Jax.
Xavier Legette is
We're a Wednesday
hilarious.
night
Yeah.
release.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. So good.
yeah.
I don't know. Trav, take us away. I
Yeah.
can't follow
Well,
that.
we'll keep going with a few more quarterbacks, and then we'll move into the sexier positions, even though we do play Superflex, so I guess these guys are sexy. I have a tier of 1 at quarterback 4, and that is 1 Jalen Hurts. He went at pick 5 after my Jamar Chase pick in this startup draft here, and I think he's a very interesting case because he's one of the few guys who's has that standing among the quarterbacks, but presents very little passing upside as far as quarterbacks go. You know what I mean? Like, lowest pass attempts in the league were the Eagles last year. So I think it's really interesting. And I, even being an Eagles fan, having him at 4, see that there's so much risk in him if he stops getting those double-digit touchdown seasons. And so what say you, Joe, as far as Jalen Hurts as the quarterback 4, and then going there and taking that risk on him in the startup draft?
Well, he's my QB4 as well. I've got Jayden, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and then Jalen Hurts. And, Tush Push is here to stay. I think he can bank on them continuing to use that for as long as it's effective. So I'm good with it. And I do think there's a pretty big tier drop after that. You may see in
Mhm.
startups some wide receivers go before Jalen Hurts. You might even see like a Joe Burrow go before Jalen Hurts. But I think like the rushing floor and the rushing touchdown floor is just too hard to pass up for like a pure pocket passer that goes up and down with passing touchdown, regression
Mhm.
every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're forgetting about Patrick Mahomes too, in my personal opinion. But I think Burrow and Mahomes kind of make a tier with Jalen Hurts. Hurts, obviously, with the, just he's my quarterback 4 as well. But I think Burrow and Mahomes, I think Mahomes is a great value. I traded out of the 2-0, whatever it was, 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly the pick. I guess I have the 108, so it's whatever that is, the 205, I guess. And yeah, for Patrick Mahomes, I'm like, dude, Patrick Mahomes at that kind of early second round value is really, really strong. So you're seeing him go there a lot. I think I value him at least in that first round. I mean, somewhere in the at least the 1-2 turn, man. Like, I don't know. I have a hard time taking certain players, even like an Amon-Ra ahead of Patrick Mahomes. I know, what do you guys think about that?
It depends. Like, I think for me, I kind of like going the wide receiver and then just playing with the quarterback position because there's some, not that these guys all have the upside that Patrick Mahomes has,
Yeah.
but I think there's some guys that are cheaper that present the same upside. I think, not that you have this perception, but I think a lot of the perception in the landscape is that Patrick Mahomes is as good for fantasy as he is for real life. And he's not quite on that level as a fantasy
Correct.
quarterback, albeit still my quarterback 5, Jack. So I'm right in line with you. I just maybe have him a little bit of a tier down. But yeah, I think he's right there. And to your point, I don't think people are going to be upset about taking him in that 1-2 turn. That startup that I'm talking about, not that this is all about my draft or anything
Yeah.
like
No,
that. He went at the 107 though. So it went
there you
Hurts at
go.
5, Burrow at 6, Mahomes at 7, Caleb Williams at 8, boys.
Whew.
Well, real quick before we get to Caleb Williams, here's my
Yeah,
dilemma,
we're
and
not getting there yet. I
this is
just,
why I keep trading out of the first round. I feel like we're talking about rookie drafts all over again. You see, I have
Yeah.
a tendency here, but I got Drake May above. I got Drake May at the top of the next tier after Jalen Hurts,
wow.
because of the rushing and because of I think the progression that we're going to see. And this is still Dynasty, and we have to kind of project forward. So it's like in season, I think I'd have those guys ranked ahead of him. But in a startup, I'd rather have Drake May. But here's the thing: I don't have to take Drake May till the middle of the second round, like early
Right.
mid second round, and so that's why there's a tier break for me. That's like, all right, here's where we hammer the receivers or get out of there and go grab Drake May in the second. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I'm good passing on Burrow and Mahomes for that reason.
Correct. I that's right, especially because you have, to me, it's a 3-man tier. So I'll talk even more about your Drake May play, which can be, expounded to include Justin Herbert and Bo Nix. If
Yes.
you really like Stroud and Caleb, you could push them into that tier. I push them a little bit down from that tier. That's just me. I think it's personal preference, but ultimately at the end of the day, that's the reason that you push Patrick Mahomes down and just take those elite players like, Chase, Jefferson, Neighbors, CD, Amon-Ra, Bowers. I think, well, in the running backs, if it's if you like the running backs there, I think that's about right. Maybe you could even talk about Brian Thomas and Puka Nacua,
So
right? But after that little group, then you can just hammer one of those 6 or 5, whatever I just named, the Drake May, Herbert, Nix, Stroud, Caleb.
I probably would say I have Knicks a little bit lower than you, and I think that like CJ Stroud is just being slept on like crazy. I think, yeah, he didn't have a great season last year in 2024. He had an awesome rookie season. And what would you guys just say off the top of the dome in either of those seasons, but probably his first season, his highest touchdown season?
27.
CJ Stroud. 23.
27. Yeah.
23 is his highest touchdown season, and he's got new weapons around him. He's got 30 touchdown seasons in his bag coming up in the future. You know what I mean? So I don't think we've seen even close to the best of CJ Stroud. I think people got really hyped on that rookie season, and seeing the come down, they're just ready to just leave him and just not be attached to him anymore. I am going in full steam because I think he's still the guy that we were touting after that rookie season. I think he had some things not shake his way, tons of injuries at receiver. So I think CJ Stroud is still that dude. He's my quarterback 7 right behind Joe Burrow. So I'm
Look,
still very
I
staunchly
would
in that camp.
I would take CJ Stroud over Bo Nix in real football, but I gotta give Bo Nix the advantage in Dynasty
Really?
just because, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. For me, for sure, because he's got the rushing upside, and I think if CJ Stroud, I'm fine with him being in that tier. With Caleb and with Justin Herbert, I think he probably is a little bit more like Justin Herbert. But if I think about it, Justin Herbert has upside too, and he's got more rushing upside, and I think he's at least as good, if not a better quarterback
Hmm.
than CJ Stroud. So I think I have Herbert and CJ Stroud as sort of very similar. I'm not sure age; they're not that different. I don't think. I think Herbert's a little bit older, but so
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
like those two guys in a tier, and Drake May and Bo Nix haven't proved it. Certainly, Drake May hasn't proved anything. I mean, he just
Mhm.
showed really, really well in a terrible situation, which gives him a lot of bonus points, and he was also like elite rusher, which we didn't really
Yeah.
exactly see that coming, but it was there.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, Joe, you're a little steamy on him, I'd say, but I like the stance. You know what I mean? Because if he hits, he's going to be absolutely that and probably a little bit more.
Well, and I'm exactly in the same place with Jax as far as CJ Stroud, right? So I've got just I think it helps to rattle these guys off, right? So it's Daniels,
Hmm.
Allen, Jackson, Hurts, May, who I know I'm super high on,
Hmm.
then Burrow, Mahomes, then Nix, Herbert, Stroud, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love. That rounds out my top 12.
And I would chop Jordan Love off that
I think I would too. I think it's a different tier.
because it's a different tier, right? So I like the Caleb younger 101 upside, the whole thing, weapons, offensive coordinator. Let's keep them coming. When we get to the rest of those guys, I actually have JJ McCarthy in the same group and at the top of it, but I seldom. Although in my draft that I'm doing right now, he went at like the 401. He went ahead of almost all these
He's
guys. Like,
going early.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's going
So
early. I think.
he went a lot earlier than even I, and I wanted to get him. So yeah, it's
Mhm.
very, very difficult to get him.
So who's that
I
next
think
tier? Who's that next tier? Because that's
just one sec. I just want to give the rest of my top 12 here just
sure.
real quick.
Please.
So I've pretty similar actually. So same top 6, CJ Stroud at 7, Caleb Williams at 8 for me. And I think Joe, your limb taking Drake May at quarterback 6 is not that much different than me having Caleb
Sure.
Williams at quarterback 8. I
Yeah.
have Drake May at quarterback 9. So this is where
Yeah.
you guys have made me adjust to new information and a new perspective, is that I didn't have Drake May quite that high. I was putting too much stock in the downside outcome as opposed to what the upside outcome could be. I have Justin Herbert at 10, Bo Nix at 11.
Yeah.
I got Michael Penix snuck in there at quarterback 12, boys. I
That's
think he is
fair.
going to be one of those compiling pocket passers. I think he is going to have to throw those 30 touchdown seasons, but I think we've seen that he has kind of the skill set to be one of those guys. And so probably a little bit bullish, but I think he's got a nice situation around him to do that. And this is another situation where you guys got into my noggin here. JJ McCarthy is quarterback 13 after not having a snap in the NFL. And you guys got into my head on that one. I had to put him up above the guys like Goff, Baker, Purdy, Prescott, Trevor.
Here's
That's
the
my
thing
next
though
tier,
with
guys.
that tier, right? So I look at that tier from it's basically quarterback 12 through probably 21 or 22, depending on how I
Around there, yep.
feel about a certain couple of players there. But I actually am pretty much okay with any of these guys as they fall to me. Like whichever one sort of makes it to me, I'm happy to get that guy. Now, that's just to name them in no particular order for me, although they're in the exact order I like them. JJ McCarthy, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, Michael Penix, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Cam Ward, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Bryce Young. That whole group, like honestly, you could tell me to switch them all around and I'd be like, fine, whatever. I don't really know, or I don't really care. What I would also say is there's a roster construction case for all of them. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
right, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, if you just went kind of all in on a win now and you've got one of the top quarterbacks and and you're like, you prioritize maybe a Goff, Prescott, or Baker over some of these
Baker,
other
yep.
guys, right? It's like, okay, I see the
Brock
win
Purdy,
now play.
maybe.
I like Brock. Brock
If
actually is ready to move up now because of the contract. What do you guys think of this sort of tier in Brock?
Absolutely. I absolutely think he's in that tier with those guys. I think Trevor is seeing a bit of a resurgence into that tier with the weapons around him and Liam Cohen. I think he's absolutely in that.
We're gonna sing the
I think
same
if you can,
song again this year, right? And
yeah, we're always singing that fucking
God
song. Me and
dang,
you, man. We're banging the drum for Trev, my man.
brutal.
But
We're
yeah,
gonna
I
be
think
right
that's a
one of
good
these
point
times.
about the roster construction stuff, right? Because if you can take on a little bit more risk and you want some upside, maybe you are looking for a guy like McCarthy who's in that KOC offense. Maybe you are looking for a guy like Kyler or a Jordan Love who have some of that mobility in those offenses. So I think that's really good to think about it. And in these tiers, we even talked about this with some of our rookie tiers. There's areas where some of this stuff does kind of overlap. So where, I have Penix and McCarthy at 12 and 13
I
from a
love that.
dynasty rankings perspective.
Yep.
I get into a draft and there's probably a lot of teams where I've built ahead of these guys where I'm waiting for Jared Goff, I'm waiting for Baker Mayfield because they make more sense for me in the win now perspective. And yeah, I think a lot of it is playing the back of those tiers and kind of seeing how the value is shaking out, which is hard to do early in drafts. But if I look at this draft here that I'm in, and we talk about how high we've got Bo Nix, I think we might be a little bit high on him versus some other people because he went in at 302 just after her. So I guess we're probably right on him, but like 302, I would say, and there was like a 12 player or 10 player gap in between the quarterback previous. So I think drafts, you might see a big tier in between these guys where, you got to pounce. And that guy pounced on Bo Nix at the top of the third because it's a teardrop after him. And yeah.
So I've got Love, Murray, Purdy, and McCarthy in a tier from
What's
12
the
to
number attached
15.
to those guys? 12 to 15.
12 to
Love.
15. Love at 12, Murray at 13, Purdy at 14, McCarthy at 15. Then tier break. Then I just go with the rookies. I've got Ward and Dart with Goff, Lawrence, Mayfield, Prescott, Penix. And Penix is all the way down to 22. You can make for a case for him higher or lower. I just don't feel like we saw enough from him to elevate him. And
Yeah.
I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth because I've got JJ McCarthy, who we haven't seen yet at 15. I just have a ton. I like him better as a prospect. I obviously like his situation a ton. So I think that's why I'm there. But all these other guys, I've either haven't seen them or I've seen them fail at some level or in the wrong situation. And so I don't know. I'm kind of I'm mystery boxing it a little bit, just taking Ward and Dart ahead of Goff's and Lawrence's because the perceived upside is higher than what those two have to offer, or at least have offered us thus far. But I think in agreement with you, probably stops at Young at 23 for me. And then, we've got a different tier of like the undesirable QB2s where you're not sure how this asset's going to hold value.
Yeah.
But I do think there's some late round quarterback arbitrage, easy for me to say.
Oh, yes.
Right? Where it's like, as you look back there, you've got Sam Darnold, like guys that I think will just like produce this year. And, will probably not lose their job, especially Geno Smith and Matthew Stafford. Like Matthew
Mhm.
Stafford, dude, if he decides to play 2 more years, like Matthew Stafford is a smash button late as well. Geno Smith, another one. Sam Darnold, absolutely fantastic. I mean, I guess he's got a little bit more pressure because he's sucked for his whole career. And it's like, if he goes back to that, people will be like, "Ew, I think we got the old Darnold,
Yeah.
And they did draft Milroe and all the rest of it. So there's a little bit of internal pressure there for him to play well. If he doesn't and they're losing, it could get a little weird. But I think
Well,
with Geno, I don't think there's that pressure for him. And I don't see it for Stafford at all. And I see Darnold go ahead of both of them. I would be taking Geno and Stafford ahead. What about you guys?
especially at cost. I think
I'm saying
absolutely.
straight up.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah, for
taking-
sure.
I'm just not drafting Darnold ahead of either of those two guys. that I just-
I completely agree. I'm not either. And like those two are perfect. And we talked about this. I've done it in 2 leagues. I
Yeah.
have the combination of Jackson Dart and Matthew Stafford, right? And like Stafford, like you're my placeholder. Dart, we're waiting for you to come along, but this is the succession plan for my QB2, right? That's like the perfect pairing, and you can get those guys in the 8th round and like the 9th or 10th round of your startup. And that's how you solve for QB2 while you fill in the rest of those slots. And so that's why I'm totally fine with trading back and loading up in the 8th and 9th round, because that's where I know I'm going to get like, the last of the first round rookie picks and also these value quarterback propositions, right?
And I'm going to say real quick, this is in a 12 team start 11. If you start to say a 10 team league or a 12 team start 9 or 10, this
Mhm.
conversation changes because you don't really need to have a deep roster. And so you should be just smashing 2 quarterbacks in the first, in the top 15.
5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
want to
yeah.
get in the first 2 tiers, like top 20.
Yeah.
You want 2 of the top 20. You don't want to be messing around with any of this other nonsense because you don't have to, because you don't have 3 or 4 flexes. If it's a start 2 running back, start 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, it's like, dude, don't worry about it. You're fine. Just smash 2 dope quarterbacks, get an advantage over your league. But when it's a deep roster, a deep starting roster, those second and third and fourth flexes start to become like, you have a big advantage there too. And Stafford is kind of interesting because we talked about a pre-show. It's like if you end up with like Stafford and Devontae, I mean, it's not going to be that much different than Burrow neighbors or Burrow, Marvin
Totally.
Harrison Jr. in the second. Like the point total there in the first and second versus the 9th and 10th, it's going to be close in year 1, obviously. So it's a
Yeah.
good arbitrage way, and certainly, oh shit, we're gonna have to cut this too because these are also guys I'm going to be targeting in this league that I'm not rebuilding in.
No.
Yeah,
This is
All
this
right.
is not Jax Falcone. Let's just say this is not Jax Falcone
yeah,
on
this
this
is somebody
episode.
else.
I
Don't
wanna-
worry
But
about it.
I was gonna give one more arbitrage here, Joe, if that's okay. Because
Yeah, go
if
for
we're
it.
looking at like Joe, you gave some good kind of safe pocket, or Jax, you gave some good safe pocket passers there. So say you went with the CJ Stroud and like a Brock Purdy as your top 2, and you're looking to find that third guy. Justin Fields is the upside guy that you absolutely want because he
Yes.
is going to come in there. I think he got a 2-year deal from the Jets. Got Garrett Wilson. They've made some offensive line additions and things like that. So it's not going to be great, but I don't think he's a quarterback that needs a great situation around him, right? He's not one where we're looking to have 3 dope wide receivers and a dynamite offensive line, because he's going to be running around. We want that rushing upside, and we want him bombing it deep to Garrett Wilson, and that's going to buoy him into a nice fantasy season. So he's the high upside arbitrage to those safer guys for sure.
Totally, and I think he falls in the same bucket as Darnold, where I guess he doesn't have the pressure from behind, but he does have some sketchy ground he's standing on. He's not
Got to
he's on
prove it.
thin ice. Yeah, he's got to prove it. But you're absolutely right. If you have 2 solid, safe players, what did you say,
Purdy and Stroud.
Whatever. Yeah, perfect. It's like, dude, Fields is the perfect guy to take a swing on late. Absolutely.
I have one more that I want to talk about because his situation completely changed, and I don't think it's been baked in. It's like you didn't even see his ADP move in startups, and that's Dak Prescott, right?
Yep.
He got hurt last year. The Cowboys sucked last year. In 2023, this dude was the QB4. he went on a heater, like, an all-time heater where if you had him on your team, like you were making it to the championship, as if he was like your QB2. So he was unreal. And he's in that same vein of these guys that could just see their touchdown rate increase or decrease, and that can swing them from QB4 down to like QB20, right? But they added George Pickens, and I feel like it just didn't move the needle for his value at all. So I think he's like the beginning of, and he's like he's kind of he's younger than Geno, right? I think right about the same age as Geno. I'm not sure, but in that same ballpark,
31,
huh?
right around
30.
there. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
31.
So a little younger than Geno. Well, that's like 4 years younger than Geno. So
Yeah.
he's got several
Yeah.
years left. They brought Schottenheimer. They're running a Schottenheimer offense where he aired it out 2 years ago and was the QB4. Like, I don't know. He's probably one of the best plays in like the 6th or 7th round of your startup drafts if you've punted the position and are going to go for like him and a Dart and a Stafford or a Geno. Go
I
ahead,
have a
Jack.
question for Trav.
Mhm.
Trav, you've got the CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy. Okay, you got it.
Yes.
You're on the clock. Fields and Jackson Dart are both there. Who you taking?
Oh, it's got to be Jackson Dart.
Mm-hmm.
The
I
leash
agree.
is just
Yeah.
longer. It just has to be. And
Okay.
I love Justin Fields. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
just
like
wanted to see where you were at, and I think that's right.
I think he's in the territory of bouncing around, competing for starting jobs for the rest of his career, whereas Jackson Dart could be a cemented decade-long starter for all we know. So I'm
Or
with you on
nobody,
that.
right? He's got
Yeah,
way more variance, but he does have the potential to be like, no, he's just good. He's just good forever. Yep, he's just good, right?
absolutely.
Yep.
That's such a good. Okay, if I'm looking at sleeper ADP right now, Jackson Dart sleeper ADP 83, Justin Fields 85.
That's
Yeah.
why I asked,
Hang
because
on.
they're gonna be a choice for you, and depending on how you build, I almost say no matter how you build, I'm taking Dart over Fields almost every time.
Okay,
I'm
what
taking.
about Tua's ADP at 74 ahead of both of those guys? What do you guys think about Tua in Dynasty? I
Well,
think he is one headshot away from
we know Joe
never
hates
playing
him.
again.
Yeah, Joe hates him. So he's a never draft Tua. So his opinion almost, and I mean this respectfully, doesn't matter on this because he's so anti Tua. No, it's true. It's
It's
not
true.
like it is.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. So I think I'm the only one that could possibly answer that question with any sort of level-headedness because and I don't know. He's been influencing me a little anti-Tua. Tua he's so much better in that offense when it's Tua than when it's anybody else. I know anybody else hasn't been anybody good, but I think the difference shows that Tua does have skills. And I actually am okay with the risk, especially at his price. And I will be targeting him as well late here because he's a lot like Stafford. I mean, insofar as if he's healthy, he's playing. So he's good enough to be a starter on talent alone. I know he's not elite, but he's definitely a top 20-ish, talent in the league. Yeah, man, I think he's worth it. He's just a high risk player, but so isn't
Yeah.
Fields. So isn't everybody else in that general area. So Darnold's on a short lease. Everybody sort of has an out where they could be starting only 6 games this year. Tua's only real out for that is injury. I mean, he's not going to play that bad where
It's
he's
true.
just hooked.
That's the fade for me is just because of the injury and the
Sure.
nature of the injuries being one that could just end his career at the snap. I
Yeah.
have him as my quarterback 24, but to your point, Jack's like he could give us a quarterback 12 season and I would not be surprised whatsoever if he stayed healthy
Right.
for the whole year. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that upside is there. And I think there's some pretty decent arbitrage plays. These are guys who are, if you stacked running back, if you stacked wide receiver, you might be able to get a quarterback 2 season out of them if you get one of those rookie quarterbacks as a succession plan. So
Yep.
I don't mind it, fellas. Let's move to running backs. We spent a lot of time on these quarterbacks.
Yep.
So much time that my Fantasy Pros ranking has logged me out. So bear with me as I log back in.
Well, the running backs is
Joseph.
I feel like
Yeah.
there's like a few running backs that are worthy of an early pick, and then I get totally I don't really want to take all these like Jacobs and even Barkley. I know he's awesome, but it's like dude is gonna time out soon. Like I don't know, man. Taking these early running backs, scare me because you're taking them in the first 3-4 rounds where you're taking other players that are going to have long-term value. You got to really build smartly around these running backs. If you're taking them, you got to buoy your team to other value. I've seen teams, draft these running backs, and then in a couple years, they literally have nothing on their roster. It's like,
Yeah.
just, you know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful. I would go with an anchor RB situation. I wouldn't be too running back heavy. I've got a running back heavy team that I'm managing with Wiz. It's like, it's Gibbs and JT and things like that we just drafted a couple years ago, last off season. But it's like, it's scary, because it's like, dude, JT could be, it's like, he's 26 and you feel weird about, his future, even though he's an absolute stud. So I think, I'm of the opinion that you've got the Genty, Gibbs and Bijan tier. And then I'm a little bit more hesitant all the way through from there.
Where do you guys have Barkley?
4.
I've got
Me
him at
too.
5. I've got him at
Yeah,
5.
Who do you have at 4?
I pushed Amarian up.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I
have
did
him
it.
at 6, so not that far.
I've got Bijan, Janty, Gibbs, Hampton, Barkley, Hall, Achane, Taylor, Irving, Walker is my top 10.
I drafted, but don't you think that's don't you have that as a different tier? By the way, I drafted Amarian. I drafted Amarian 1 pick after Barkley in this startup as running back 5, ahead of Achane and Breece Hall and the rest. So yeah, and by the way, in this particular draft, it went Barkley, Omarion, Achane, Breece Hall, and then Travion and Judkins were the next 2 off the board. I don't know if I started that or whatever, you know what I mean? But I was like, whoa, Travion, Judkins, then Bucky Irving, then JT, then Jacobs, and that's the only running backs taken so far. So very interesting sort of, the way that these picks fall. Haven't you guys seen the same thing in your startups?
Yeah, and a startup is going to be like completely different, especially at running back, though, right? Where people are like, either I'm going to use this guy to carry me to a title right away, or I want as much runway as possible. And so that's not this is the dichotomy we talk about versus like startup value versus in-season value or once a league's going. For people who have a league going, those guys are well below those established vets who you're going to get something from. But in a startup, you're thinking very long-term, or you're thinking win right effing now.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's like true to where their actual values are. I've got those other running backs outside of Omarion. There's not, my next, I've got Caleb and Harvey back to back. I've actually got all 4 of them clustered from 12 to 15. It's Caleb, Harvey, Judkins, Travion from 12 to 15. I do not have them ahead of like the established dudes we know we're getting from.
See, I do, but I respect where you're coming from. Yeah.
So for me, I think the top tier, I have Gibbs, Bijan, Genty as my top 3.
Yep,
that's how I have it. Just the ceiling play of Gibbs is what I like.
It's the receiving and all that.
Yeah, but you can't be mad at any of them, right? You can't be mad. But I think to your point, Jax, is like if you're taking one of these guys in the first round, you've dictated how you need to build that team.
Yep.
And it's really easy to fuck that up, right?
Bingo.
Is basically what we're saying. So
Yes.
you just got to be really careful that you don't fuck that up by getting a bunch of first and second year wide receivers along with a Bijan Robinson. You're stacking the wide receivers that are going to produce as wide receiver 1s this year, not 3 years from now. So I think that changes the way that you play. And I think it's interesting because I have Breece Hall as my running back 5 right after Saquon Barkley. I am still in on that talent that he is. Like we were talking about him in similar talent ranges as guys like Bijan, I felt like before. And so I think he's close to that for me. Omarion at 6. I still have Jonathan Taylor at 7. And then I have the rookies right after that, Joe. I have Quinshon Judkins at 8, Caleb Johnson at 9. Jax, you'll be proud of me. Travion's at 10. That's pretty good for what I've been talking about with him. RJ Harvey could get as high as 11, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have him like right there. And then that's a tier break. And then we get into the James Cook, Kenneth Walker. Okay. I think we need to talk about Devon Achane because he could be as high as running back 5, but I think I have a pretty spicy take. He's my dynasty running back 14. Oh, boys. And I know that's low, but I think the range of outcomes is so wide for him. And I think a player like him, longevity is not usually in his favor for those kind of guys. Obviously, he's super small, super explosive, but not only that, like coaching changes. Not all coaches are going to be able to use him the way that Mike McDaniels is going to use him. And Mike McDaniels' previous systems have always had a second back. And I think that the backs that they have there right now in Jalen Wright and Ollie Gordon are pretty good. So while it's a little bit spicy, and if we're looking at the long-term take, I think a lot of these guys around Devon Achane have longevity in their favor over him, and I'm taking that. So that's why I have him that low, and I think that might be spicy, but I think in a couple of years I'll be all right with it.
I was going to say, as soon as you said that, this is an Ollie Gordon tweet. Coming from
It's not even like it's like a Jalen Wright, and it's like a Jalen Wright tweet disguised as an Ollie Gordon tweet or something like that, disguised as a 2023 Raheem Mostert tweet for all I know. I have no clue, but
I think
yeah,
I think you have durability concerns in two ways. You hit on it. I mean, that like just his profile isn't durable from a coaching change standpoint or a philosophical change standpoint, and then also sub 200 pounds. So I get it. I've got him at 7, but
7. Jack, how about you?
Let me see. I think 4 or 5, whatever. Let me look real quick.
Right up there. Yeah.
Here's the thing. He was the running back. Yeah, 5.
I know.
So here's the thing. He was the he was the running back 5 last year with the season from hell. I mean,
yeah,
he's really
Doesn't
good.
He just feel like he's going to be volatile though? Like maybe it's more of like a feeling, like a gut feel about him, but
I feel like
he's
all
just
these
be really
running backs
streaky.
are volatile. So I don't. What running back isn't volatile other than outside of the top 3?
Okay.
Like volatility is the running back position. I'm scared, but I will say he had 87 targets. 6 receiving touchdowns. I'm okay with this. This feels like he only had 200 carries and he was the running back 5. Like I don't think he needs.
It was dope. I'm not hating on that.
And all the big plays went away. He did not
went away.
He went from the most efficient running back in the league his rookie season, like historically great efficiency his rookie season, to very inefficient last year, but he completely made up for it in receiving games. So he was the exact opposite. He was like the model of consistency because of what that offense became. So I think there is a middle ground somewhere, assuming
you guys did it.
Assuming the offense is working.
He also the offense is scary though. But here's the thing: he has that dual threat capability where if they're winning, he can rush the ball. But he may even be better if they're kind of bad and they've got to chuck it all over the place. Because once he catches the ball in space, dude, he's the player that I even said coming in. It's like you just dump off to him is dangerous. Like that's a dangerous play. He makes one guy miss, he's fucking gone. Like he's so dangerous in space. Like a lot of running backs, you dump it off, it's like, well, they're tackled after 5 yards, and you just let's try that again. Where with him, it's like he could just get the edge on you, and I mean he's gone. So yeah, he makes big plays, and to that point, he had 6 receiving touchdowns last year.
And if I'm the guy who has Jahmyr Gibbs as my running back 1, I should probably think about bumping him up. I kind of like this.
The offense is totally different, but yeah.
But like the explosive player, and what I mean.
The targets. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna keep him there for now. I think just because I kind of like the stance. But if I move him up, Jax, just to troll you, he's going right in front of Travion at running back 9, at running back 10.
I have a question. Where do you guys have Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry slated in? Because from a dynasty, brutal. I have a real hard time with this, because if you ask me if I want them on my team, the answer is absolutely. And I'm like, okay, who would I rather have? It's like, do you want the 20 point per game plus season that either of them can offer you, but it's probably 1 or 2 more seasons at most? Or do you want like 5 seasons of 14 points or 13 points from someone else?
I have them at the top of a tier, and Jax, I'll be quick and I'll flip it to you. So I have them right at the top of a tier. So that next tier I was talking about at running back 12, where James Cook, Kenneth Walker, my hot take on Devon Achane, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving is the end of a tier. The start of that next tier at running back 17 is Christian McCaffrey. Right after him is Derrick Henry. Right after him is Josh Jacobs at 19. And then it's another little tier with Chuba and Kyron Williams. So I have them inside the top 20 still. There's a case for them to be inside the top 10 with the short-term production they could have. There's a case for them being outside the top 20 with some of these other rookies that came in. So Jax, where are you sitting?
I agree. I Derrick Henry firmly above Christian McCaffrey. I mean, we've seen it. It's like
the durability.
The pick on Derrick Henry is I want to win my league this year pick. And it's like you're doing so where's that happen? Like in the 6th, 7th, 8th round, somewhere in there. It's like that's a pretty cool pick if you make it, you know. I think Christian McCaffrey has that same type of upside. So very, very interesting way to play the board. If you just kind of hammer wide receiver early, and then all of a sudden you pick an anchor running back at like the 8th or 9th round in a startup.
Back of
And it's
6 for Henry. Back
okay,
of
thank you.
back of 6. McCaffrey around ahead, back of 5.
Oof. He's not. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
that's a little rich for
Well,
me.
where do you have them ranked, Jax? What's their
16 and 19, something like that. Yeah.
Right in that area, yeah.
I've got them
How about you,
back to back. I've got them back to back at 20 and 21, right behind James Cook, Chase Brown,
Yeah.
and Chuba Hubbard, and right ahead of Cam, Scattaboo, and Bashal Tootin.
Yeah.
Well, I'm all the way through the 5th round of this startup, and the 6th round is coming. Kyron, James Cook, still on the board, and then it's McCaffrey as ADP would be next. So yeah, he might go in
Well-
the 6th round, I guess.
Well, and there's even a part of that, like he could get pushed down, right? You could see a bunch of wide receivers and quarterbacks go there, and some of that could be with that kind of what we were talking about with a little bit of scary taking those running backs that early. Like this startup that I've been talking about, this is the one where Joe got Bijan Robinson at 204. Bijan Robinson at 204 was the running back 1 taken. There was none taken in that first round. So that's pick 16.
Hey, like a lot of these drafts, of the overall players remaining, 4 of the first 5 by ADP are running backs, that are available. So yeah,
Mhm.
they tend to fall a little bit more in these sort of high leverage leagues where you just don't want to be investing in running back too much early because you can get burned. So yeah, to your point.
Totally. What do you guys do with like the Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift types? I think Alvin Kamara is going to smash this season. He's going to be incredible this year. But he seems super risky as well, but he just continues to be incredible and efficient every season.
I've got Kamara at 25. Mixon, I think, is in this tier too. I've got Kamara at 25, Mixon at 27. Oh, where do I have Swift? I'm such a Swift hater. God, I can't even
You
find
are
him
a
right now.
hater.
I probably need to fix my Swift ranking, but I can't even find him
Oh
right
my
now.
God.
I have Swift ahead of Kamara, actually. I mean, I think they're basically the same bet. I mean, at least DeAndre Swift playing in a awesome offense, supposedly with the Kamara situation. Look, eventually Kamara and Mixon, it's like, what is a bet for them? A bet for them is that they're gonna hang on for one more year, like because it's like
I think
if
Kamara's not quite that yet. I think he's got a couple left
isn't
in him.
he 30?
Still, though, he's
30.
like, give the guy 100 carries and 70 targets, and you'll extend his career by at least 4 seasons, right? And he'll smash on that.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm moving Swift up right now.
Terrified. I'm terrified of Kamara, but I've been terrified of Kamara over the last two years or whatever, and I've been wrong. So I'm ready to be wrong again. But I'm just terrified. I can't imagine pushing the button on a Kamara. That's a tough pick for me. I don't know who you like, Bashal Tootin or Kamara.
He's picked 99 right now. So
Okay.
if you need some year 1 production, like this is kind of roster construction-y too, right? So if you go young running backs who are have questionable paths, maybe Kamara is a guy for you. Where do you guys have my boy Trey Benson?
Wait. I want to stick with Kamara for 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jax, you said Tootin or Kamara. My answer is Tootin, but I think this is a fun game. What about
22?
Montgomery or Kamara?
Montgomery.
By the way, I don't know about you guys. Sometimes I say Kamara, sometimes I say Kamara.
Me too.
You guys switch it up.
Same.
Like I feel like
Same.
nobody says it the same way every single time. I think everybody goes back and forth on him.
Totally. I have Kamara 1 spot ahead of Montgomery at 23.
But where do you have Kamara?
23. 1 spot ahead. I see what you fucking. I just took it as the same name. It was the same thing to me. I didn't hear anything different.
I have Montgomery 1 spot ahead too. All right. Kamara or Tyrone Tracy.
Tyrone Tracy's a fair way back for me.
Jax, what about you?
Yeah, I'm taking Kamara over Tracy probably.
Joe Mixon.
Let's let me see where it is. I have them close. So I have
Kamara over
Kamara at
Mixon.
27, Tracy at 30, so very close. Mixon 29 and Kamara 27. Same thing. The good one for me is Travis Etienne. What do you think? I know everybody hates Travis Etienne, but like, do you remember he was like a
32.
first round pick? He's kind of
32.
good, and he's still young. And like, what's to say that they just don't? He's not just like the RB1 in a great offense this year.
I
Like,
literally just put
this year,
Swift ahead of ETN.
even long term, Jax, like even long term for
Yeah,
ETN, like it's almost like people are acting like the end of his Jacksonville tenure is his death. You know
Yeah.
what I
right.
mean? But he's going to go to another team that's going to use him. Like everybody gets super hyped about the Chiefs, right? What if the Chiefs added him next year? Or like, what if
Right.
like the Bears with Ben Johnson added him next year after
Right.
the Jags cut him loose or something like that? So I think people are severely discounting the upside we've seen from Travis Etienne and what he can do post Jags career potentially. Because,
I'm taking
you know,
Etienne ahead of Kamara.
Hmm.
mm,
I
you
think
might have to think
that's
about that.
probably right. But
Yeah,
what I think once you get to this point, so this is actually a good conversation.
I moved him up,
Yeah.
Jack.
Once you
Moved him up.
get to this point, you're not thinking about age anymore. You're thinking about just like production, and you just know, or I don't know. You think you know that Kamara is
Right.
gonna be a higher points per game producer than ETN. Obviously,
Hmm.
ETN's got more runway ahead of him than Kamara
Yes.
does, but this goes back to the same question, right? Do you want, 1 year of Kamara scoring 17 points a game, or like
Mhm.
4 years of ETN being at 12 and being this just confounding running back that you're not really sure what to do with?
Mhm.
I think that's where the breaking point is for me, and I'll take the veteran that I know is going to produce over an ETN, which is like a middling profile. It's just he's too middling for me to take a stand on him. I'd rather just take bankable and figure out a succession plan later.
Hmm. So after those guys, I have a tier of young running backs. And so I want to know where you guys have these guys. I have Trey Benson at 27. I am very bullish on Trey Benson. Jalen Wright, 28. Then Scatabo, 29. Then it's all these rookies. Scatabo, Jarquez, Giddens, Neal round out 32. And this is where the profiles and like the types of players kind of come in for me a little bit more within my tiers, because that tier could overlap a little bit with my next tier depending on the team that I'm building that has like Brian Robinson, Ramondre, Najee, etc. So where do you have that group of young guys?
I'm
They
gonna
might
go
be
ahead and
scattered.
say something. Trav, not to offend you. You're crazy. If you have Benson that high, you're crazy. He just fell flat on his face in
That's
his
fine.
rookie year.
That's fine.
Like, I mean, he's got the potential to be up there, but he showed us absolutely nothing. You got to bank on basically almost all these
Did they
rookies.
show any lack of confidence in him this offseason whatsoever?
No, but
No, because he is still going in as the backup to James Conner on a team that is going to use a bell cow running back. Whoever is healthy is going to be a bell cow. And I think if Trey Benson gets to show that for even a 3-game stretch this season, we're going to forget about that rookie season where he fell flat, because he didn't get a lot of work because he was behind James Conner, who has showed us that he is way doper than we think he is, and he can take a bell cow role and he can run with it. James Conner was fucking dope. It's not that Trey Benson was that bad.
I kind of feel like he lost the backup role though last year, right? So I kind of
He just
disagree with
got a little
Travis. I
banged
want
up
I
later in
want
the
Benson to
season
be a
too.
thing.
Like, who else is gonna be there to do it? Like Michael Carter?
No, I think you're right, man. This Trey Benson does have a lot of upside, and also I
We
think
loved
he's
him, Joe.
I
yeah.
know, I still do, but
Why do
I'd
we
rather
have to
take
just
like
dead
every
him
rookie
after
who
that?
I'd rather take like a bunch of rookies that I haven't seen fail versus a guy that I have seen fail. I love Corum too. I've got Corum below those
We
guys as
can't
well.
call that a failure, though. I
Yeah,
think
I'm
that
not
to
sure.
call that a failure is so strong, and I think this is where, like, it seems like we just get off of these guys that we loved way too quick for me. Maybe that's a me thing, but I think we'd be getting off of him way early, and
I
I
agree.
think we would be upset about that.
I,
We
I
loved
I'm
the
not
dude.
cutting Trey Benson.
Here's the no. Here's the thing too with Trey Benson. Like the bet on Trey Benson last year was, well, when has James Conner ever stayed healthy? And then he stays healthy in that 1 year that you're supposed to bet against him with Trey Benson. So Trey Benson was a bet against Conner's health, and it lost somehow. I think making that bet 2 years in a row when there is no other competition on that team is a good bet to make.
I agree, and I think that that's fine. But like, okay, let's just play this game.
Where do
Like,
you have him? So
Oh,
where do you have Benson, Joe?
I've
oh,
got
oh,
Benson right next to my other boy Blake Corum at 44 and 45, below Isaac Garendo, who as a rookie showed us something.
That's fair.
Let's see, below Ray Davis, who as a rookie showed us something.
Below Ray Davis. Wow.
Yes, we
I like
saw
Ray
Ray
Davis.
Davis get a chance and
More than Trey
perform.
Benson, Jax?
No,
Like,
no, I have Trey Benson pretty far up as well. Excuse me, I've got him at like in the top 40. So yeah,
like what? Why are we putting dudes that carved out a role and showed us something below Trey Benson? I liked Trey Benson as a
Did
prospect as well,
Corum
but he
really show
did
us
not carve
something,
out a
though?
role. Nothing has changed on that team. Like
He's still the backup.
yeah.
Like, I think, like, when James Conner's producing as a top 10 back in the league for a team that we know wants a bell cow, like, that is the same situation. So, like, I get that you have him by Corum. The reason I don't have Corum as close is because of Jarquez. But Corum, like, I don't think Corum really showed us that much last year that we're super excited about him, especially with what his team has done versus what Trey Benson's team has done. So we can agree to disagree on this one, absolutely. But I think you might be a little more crazy than me, Joe.
I just feel like like I've got Will Shipley in that same neighborhood for the exact same reason,
Oh, that's
right?
crazy.
We didn't well, he's the backup to Saquon Barkley on a team that's very successful
Yeah,
running
but
the ball, right?
he's not that's the difference though, is that he is not gonna come in there and be the bell cow. They also signed AJ Dillon, who just got healthy. Like, I don't think they're gonna think that anybody is gonna be taking the whole role that Saquon does, because not one guy is gonna do that. So there's a
yeah. I don't.
difference there.
I think Benson profiles more as like 1-for-1 replacement of Connor. Should Connor get hurt, than Shipley to Saquon. And I love Shipley, but I mean he's a ways down for me. I think literally Benson is one of those guys that's like, if he gets a chance, like he was kind of a monster. You know what I mean? Look, he may not be good, and he may also
Mhm.
be one of these like knuckleheads who like couldn't get the playbook. That could have been the reason that he wasn't. I don't know. I'm speculating here, but like you're right. He didn't necessarily get himself a lot of usage in year one. We've seen that before. Like I said, Connor stayed surprisingly healthy, was never even nicked up. Like that's all kind of like a weird run out for Benson. There were other guys there, veterans, who seemed to kind of play ahead of him a lot, even Amari DiMercado or whatever. So I know he's still around, but I do think Benson elevates this year. Certainly I think he'll be given a chance to be the number 2, to
Mhm.
carve out a role. And if he doesn't, Joe, you're gonna be super, super right on this, because then he's garbage and he's nothing. But
Mhm.
I think
Fair
he's
enough.
got some
Fair.
bigger upside. So
I mean, here's the thing: is I don't think we're that far apart on this prospect as a talent. Like, I like Trey Benson. I think he's super explosive, more explosive than James Conner, and I think that if he gets the role, he's going to smash. I'm just saying we didn't see him carve out a role, and we saw a bunch of dudes that did, and then we've got this influx of a bunch of rookies who probably would have been drafted over Benson if they were all in the same draft class. So why is he above them?
we don't know that. I
Mm,
mean, Benson was given pretty good
he was one
capital,
of the
wasn't he?
few that we liked. He was one of the few that we liked in that class, right?
Yep.
I think he was in our top 3 for running back. So that's, debatable, class versus class, but I think I don't know. I think we can put him in front because the path is maybe a little bit clearer. Like you just said, if he gets the opportunity, he's going to smash Joe. And I think the fact that James Conner stayed healthy last year was great, but that was probably more of a unicorn than something that's going to continue, right? Like,
I
to
will
say
also say,
James Conner is going to miss a few games this year, I think.
if we're talking about roster construction, you do want to make sure that you don't waste a lot of time on picks that make you fall behind at the wide receiver position. You do want to be kind of set at the wide
Good
receiver
point.
position, so that way you're not taking the shit bags like, well, whatever, Rashad Bateman or something, and being like, I hope he's my wide
My
receiver
wide
3 or 4,
receiver 3. Yeah.
right? Going in, you want to be taking shots on Benson and Giddens and Neal and Tootin and all these dudes, right? Travis Etienne, whatever the case may be, Tajay Spears, boom, 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 boom. You want to be able to really, really nail this part of the draft with volume, because we don't know which one's gonna elevate. We had this conversation, I can't remember if it was JJ or whatever, but it's like we just don't know who's going to get hurt. Yeah, I think we were talking about like the difference between Giddens and Neal and all these guys, it's like, dude, if I could just tell you that Kamara is going to have a high ankle sprain, then yeah, I love Devin Neal, man. Sounds like a good player. If you tell me JT is going to go out with a knee injury, dude, DJ Giddens, I love him, like the circumstances are going to play a big role in which one of these players elevate despite their talent and draft capital,
And Joe, you are probably more in line with ADP. He's like, middle of the 13th round type deal ADP. So like if we are talking crazy, I guess mine probably might be the more out on a limb crazy, but I'm willing to risk that biscuit for a player I like.
And I think he's a fine pick. And I think from a roster construction standpoint, like, yes, hit up all these backup running backs who, if they get their role, they're, going to be the spike in value. I'm just saying I'd rather bet on the dudes that I've seen carve out roles and that I have, more bankable than a dude that didn't. That's it.
Fair. Let's talk about some wideouts.
Okay.
Let's talk about some wideouts, boys. I want to start just what is your tier one? Joe, what is your tier one of wide receivers?
LSU. Chase
Louisiana.
Yeah. Chase, Jefferson, Neighbors, and throw in CeeDee Lamb and Brian Thomas Jr.
Right.
Maybe
CeeDee Lamb's from Louisiana, so just say Louisiana.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
go.
Mine is 4. I don't quite have BTJ there, but he's right behind them. I have Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, CeeDee Lamb is my top 4.
Yes, and that's exactly my top 4.
Same.
Yeah. That's the elite. Draft them in the first round. Don't look back. Have fun. Congratulations.
And these guys could even be given, or these guys are going in the first round as well. This is the next tier. I have Amon-Ra 5, BTJ 6, Puka 7. Nico Collins could be in that tier for me. He could be at the start of the next tier. What do you guys have for your 5 through 8?
You named all the guys just now.
Yeah.
Okay. And then 9 through 12, I have Drake London at 9, Garrett Wilson at 10, Marvin Harrison Jr. at 11, and JSN at 12.
This is where we diverge. I've got Ladd. I've got Ladd at 9, Drake London 10, Wilson 11, and JSN 12. And I think that's the end of that tier. I don't have Marvin. I don't have Marvin.
We've battled Ladd a lot. We've battled on Ladd a lot.
Yeah.
Jax, what's your 9 through 12?
Yeah, and I would go, I would say 8 through 12, because I've got Nico in that next tier, not with Puka. I've got him more with the Drake London. So for me, it's Drake London, Nico, JSN, Ladd, Marvin Harrison Jr. That's where it ends for me. So that's like 8 through 12, those guys. And then, then it becomes the Garrett Wilson conversation. It becomes the Garrett Wilson conversation. The conversation that I had with JJ, Garrett Wilson versus the wide receiver 1 from this class. And I'm still leaning Garrett Wilson, and he does go earlier than them in startups. But I do see JJ's point that if Garrett Wilson struggles with Fields and that offense sucks and there's all sorts of problems, Garrett Wilson's sort of artificial dynasty value could take a hit. Whereas I do think Tet and Travis Hunter will be given some leeway, like all these rookies, like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze, etc. So I think that next tier is pretty exciting for me, because I also really like Rashee Rice, and I did get him in this startup. I think he's sort of these are the guys that could be right. They could be Garrett Wilson, Tet, Travis, Rashee, AJ Brown. I think that's where it ends. Those are the AJ Brown Lifetime Achievement Award, being 27 years old. You can take him whenever the hell you want. He's super dope, but it's really the age is the only issue.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting because we have it a lot different. I got T. Higgins in as my wide receiver 13. I got Rome in there, but you guys know how I feel about Rome, so we're not going to rehash that one. Joe, what is the back of your top 20 shakeout like?
It's AJ Brown at 13, Marvin Harrison Jr. at 14, Tet 15, Higgins 16, Flowers 17. That might be a little bit spicy relative to other people. And then I got my boy Terry McLaurin at 18, Rashee 19, Hunter 20.
Yeah.
Wow. So Terry McLaurin lover, but I don't have him. Terry McLaurin's not in my top 24. He's actually, where is he? He's my he's my wide receiver 20. So he's at wide receiver 20. I have Rashee back at 18. AJ Brown, my boy, is at 19, but he has that wide range of outcomes, like you said, Jax. And then like, what do we do with like DK, DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill? That's my 21, 22, 23. And
Wait.
I think we've already established that I usually prioritize short term a little bit more than you guys do.
Yes.
Which might be the take for DK, DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill being in my top 24.
Oh, wait, I want to know what the biggest objection was with my guys. Jack's made audible noises with mine. So tell me
He
where.
hated Terry McLaurin.
I
at
mean,
16.
yeah, Terry McLaurin and Zay Flowers that high are yeah. I mean, it's a choice.
Zay Flowers is what? Sorry?
I've
It's a
got him
choice.
at 17 and McLaurin
I think
at
that's
18.
wild. That's wild.
Wide receiver ones on dope offenses. I don't know. McLaurin finally got a quarterback.
Zay Flowers is a wide receiver 1 on a dope offense that performs like a wide receiver 2, though.
Yeah,
Like I have
and
Zay
he's
Flowers
below
at 29.
he's below T Higgins. You know, he's with a bunch of the other wide receiver twos, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't like I don't think the standing on the depth chart has to like make your ranking just because T's, you know what I mean? Like I think T just
Can I
has
ask you a question?
yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Where do you have Emeka Egbuka?
I have Egbuka at 24 right now.
25.
Where do you draft Emeka Egbuka in rookie drafts? Do you draft him
In rookie drafts or in
in rookie drafts?
somewhere around the 1-2 turn is where
Okay.
I've been getting him. Like 111 to 202 is roughly where I've gotten him.
Yeah, 202. He's not there very often, so you haven't gotten too much.
I've gotten him in the second. Yeah.
Yes, I did too, but not very often.
Yeah,
right?
sure. Fair enough.
Normally late first. So you're trading a late first for Terry McLaurin?
I would say that he's worth probably an early second. I think they're in the same ballpark.
But you just said you have him ahead of Emeka Egbuka, and Buka is a late first, easily.
Well, we're going back to the same question though, right? Is this like
I think that's an imperfect comparison. I will say just a little bit, Jax.
Not for me.
Because of the production that we've seen in the NFL. I'm more curious about Zay
Terry
Flowers.
McLaurin's 29 years old. Like, what are
I
we
think
doing?
he's 28, but
He's 29, but that's okay.
He could give us a top 10 wide receiver season in each of the next couple. So that's where that comes from. I think I'm not like I don't.
You're right. He was an old rookie, wasn't he?
Yes,
you just got me. I thought he was 28.
Yeah, he's a 29-year-old player. Like I love Terry McLaurin this year, but I think he's a lot closer to the, Devontae Adams. I mean, come on, are you sure he's going to outperform Devontae this year? I'm not. I mean, they're close.
I just really like his situation. I think you're right.
I love him.
I'm ready. I'm ready and willing to move Terry McLaurin down. But all right, tell me, who am I putting in front of Terry?
Emeka Egbuka, right? In Dynasty, obviously not this year. I mean, I clearly understand that. But I mean, my point is
I don't
can take
that.
Yeah. Again,
but it's only a few spots.
If you guys want to take Terry McLaurin with trade your 108 and 110 to get Terry McLaurin, I disagree with that.
Okay, so Jax,
what you have to take to get Emeka Egbuka. I think Emeka Egbuka is right there.
If you're in a draft and it's shaken out where you're in a team who probably should lean more towards win now, right? And you have Emeka Egbuka and Terry McLaurin on the board right there. I think you can't be mad at somebody.
Emeka Egbuka every
That's
time.
Fine, but you can't be mad at somebody for taking Terry McLaurin on it, though.
Well, I can, me personally, because I can because I can just go get Devontae Adams later. I can get Mike Evans later, and I think the production is there. I mean, I don't know how much different is Devontae and Tyreek Hill or any of these guys that are later, Mike Evans, than what you're going to get from Terry McLaurin. Projected.
I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm glad we're doing this. All right, so where do you have Xavier Worthy, above or below Terry McLaurin?
Below.
Xavier Worthy slightly ahead. Slightly.
Yeah.
They're in the same spot.
What about Zay? What about Zay Flowers?
Right there. Yep. I have Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Jayden Higgins, Terry McLaurin all together. DJ Moore right there. Because that Jayden Higgins early second round pick. These guys are
Those
early second
guys
round picks.
Whoa. Okay.
Those
So you
guys,
got
Joe, round out my top 30. So I'm a little bit lower on them, but this is where like I could put this tier of older guys ahead of the Luther, Emeka, Jayden Higgins tier, potentially depending on how I'm building my team. And then they would be in the same tier as DK, Terry, DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill. I just have that group of rookies sandwiched in between those guys.
Yeah. So, all right. So you got Jayden Higgins right there with them.
Yeah.
This is blowing my mind a little bit. All right. So where's Devonta Smith in this scenario then?
He's low for me, dude. He's wide receiver 34. He's like, we have to take that offense into account so heavily with him. They threw like 300 passes last year. And so his avenue alongside AJ Brown to succeed as a top 24 wide receiver is solely based on him doing it on not that many targets. So I think his opportunity to achieve the high end of his range of outcomes is very hard.
Mhm.
I've got Devontae at wide receiver 22. I just think he's a
Mm.
solid young wide receiver 2. Like he's going to give you wide receiver 2 numbers. I'm fine if you fade him. I wouldn't push him any higher. So like if Trav and I were running a team, he's like, I think I want to fade Devontae. I'd be like, it's fine. Like I don't have a
Yeah.
strong stance
Yeah,
on him.
yeah.
I just think that like he's just again, you could even push him behind like that's one where if you said I want to take Terry McLaurin over him, it's like that's fine.
Right.
Devontae, we've seen because Devontae is what 20. How old is Devontae now? That's actually a good question.
Probably like 26.
Devontae Smith,
26.
I think he is
He
26.
played through his senior year. Yeah.
He's 26. So it's still he's still in his prime. So that's the thing. His prime, sort of behind AJ Brown, is the issue that you're bringing up, which is of course correct. But I think he's solid, man. He's just solid. For me, he's like in that. I have Jordan Addison ahead of him, but it's kind of in that same idea where it's like they'll never really be
They're
the
very similar
one.
players. Yeah. I
You
have
know,
Addison 2 spots ahead. And this is kind of like a tier for me of these guys who are just not really sure what they're going to be. We kind of don't think they can be a wide receiver 1 for fantasy purposes. And we definitely
right?
wouldn't want them to be a wide receiver 1 on our rosters. But we acknowledge that they have within their range of outcomes to give you a wide receiver 1 season at any given time. And I have these guys here. So Chris Olave, George Pickens, then Zay Flowers, then Waddle, then Jordan Addison, Xavier Worthy, Devonta Smith. I have Brandon Ayuk at the back of that tier because I love him and I think he's being slept on when healthy. But that's kind of that group of guys who still have a little bit of youth on their side, but haven't necessarily shown the production that was maybe expected of them coming in to their
I think
careers.
George Pickens is the question mark that you could
He's got
talk
new
me
life.
into, right? Like you could talk me into moving him all the way up closer to Rome Odunze at 20.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
he's there. I don't have him there. I have him at like 33 right now, but like I'm like really open to George Pickens propaganda right now. Like
Getting some good quarterback play. Yeah.
right, dude.
I've got him.
In that offense,
I've got him at 26 right now,
there we
and
go.
I could probably move him higher too. Like I've got Waddle ahead of him, and that feels wrong. But
I have Waddle
Yeah.
at 30, Pickens at 28.
Yeah, they're close. There's
Mhm.
the thing, right? So it's
That's a
like
fat tier. And then behind them is the tier of your boys that you've been talking about, Jax. Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, just those two in a tier for me. At
I
35
slid
and
Jayden
36.
Higgins back just a little bit behind like George Pickens, like because you can't have
Yeah,
Higgins ahead
I
of
think that's
Pickens.
right.
I think that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
But
that's right.
so where do you have Pickens
Can
then?
you
You have
have a Mecca ahead of
I just
Pickens?
moved him. Yeah, I moved Pickens up to 28. Emeka's wide receiver 19. Emeka's a different guy, man. You guys are missing Emeka. I've got like 8 shares. Come on now, this is
you're just
ridiculous. What are we
going.
talking?
Yeah, you have 8 shares doesn't mean nothing though.
Well,
I
his
know,
UN
maybe
score. His
tells
UN
us your
score is
stance.
also his UN score. By the way, still
This
available.
is true.
Go check out
Yeah,
the
dude.
UN model. His UN score says otherwise, and I think that's primarily
true.
where Jax is coming from because dudes that score like a Mecca don't miss, right?
Right.
They
Yeah.
really
This
don't miss.
motherfucker don't miss.
Yeah,
They don't.
exactly. So I get
The
it.
worst miss in that range is Jerry Judy. And
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
that would be the person you'd be like, but Jerry Judy isn't even a
We're not
miss.
even
Like
sure if he's missing at this
Yeah, he
point.
just hit.
that's
Yeah.
my point. Like that's the miss at that range. Like that's it.
Mhm.
So The
Yeah.
floor feels like Jerry Jeudy. I'm like, all right, great. Give me a Mecca.
Okay, boys, should we rip a little quick tight end spot here and then ride this bad boy out?
Yes.
Real quick, I just one more question on
please.
wide
Come on,
receivers.
Joe.
I'm sorry. Where do you guys have Tyreek Hill? This one's
He's
a head
fucking
scratcher.
hard, man. He's really hard. He could,
I've got
where
an
do I
answer.
have him? Here?
I've got Devonta, Mike Evans, and Tyreek Hill ranked back to back to back, 39, 40, 41. Obviously, they're going to produce possibly like wide receiver ones, probably definitely wide receiver twos, but from a dynasty value standpoint, it's like, where do you rank them, right?
Okay,
So
I
I've
had
got-
Tyreek too high.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Jax. I had him at
I'm with
23, which was silly. I have moved him down to 34, but right at the top of that Devonta and Mike Evans tier, because I think it's really quiet around Tyreek Hill right now, and I feel like he might explode for the next year or so. Go, Jax.
Yeah, I've got the same type of thing. I've got Devonta at 35, Tyreek at 39, Mike Evans at 38. So all the same thing. I do think the Devonta Adams situation to me is one where I get very excited about his 2025.
I know.
And so the 2025, look, if he gets hurt or something stupid, but like if he's just healthy and everybody's healthy, like Stafford healthy, Puka healthy, Devonta Adams healthy, you're telling me he's not going to see 140 targets? Like,
they're gonna smash.
from
It's gonna be
Matt
insane.
Stafford, dude, it's going to be
Yeah.
sick. So
We're gonna
like,
see 240 target receivers.
yes, it's like it's so good, and so McVay, the dome, they're inside. Like it's just set up for points, So I absolutely love Devontae this year. Like for me, I've got Devontae one spot ahead of Matthew Golden as sort of a point that if I'm on the clock in a rookie draft and I'm at the 205 or whatever, and someone wants Matthew Golden, I'd gladly just on a win now team, sell that pick to get myself Devontae for a title run. Like Devontae is going to have a big season if he stays healthy, period.
I can't not push the button on him in best ball, and I can't not push the button him in, I'm 2 startups in. I've gotten him both times, right? Oh no, you know what? I missed him in our underground league, and I had so much regret that I was just like, I'm getting him in this next one, right? Like
yes,
dude,
I agree. I see everything you see.
Rams stacks in best ball.
It's beautiful.
Are going to feed third world countries. It's going to be insane. Yeah. Okay, so tight ends, pretty clear at the top. Brock Bowers, then Trey McBride.
Yes, easy.
Wow, don't jump out of your seats, boys.
That's
Jesus.
it, though. I was actually looking at something. I was going to look at the draft results in that league and see who got Devontae. How did I miss him too? So yeah, pretty upset about that.
Wait, I'm sorry. So, Trav, you just said Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, top tier? Yes, no question.
Top 2.
Yeah. Easy.
You guys didn't even listen.
Easy.
Okay,
I feel like Laporta by himself as the second tier is number 3 too, right?
I had Kittle Laporta, but I can
in
see
Dynasty.
What you're saying. Yeah. I don't know. This is probably wrong. I'm going to change it.
Yeah, I mean,
Kittle's got to be 4 though, right? Kittle's fucking dope.
Yeah, he's dope.
I've got Hawkinson, Kittle, and Njoku in a tier. And I've been waffling a little bit on that, but I just feel like they're proven, they're going to produce. And, Hawkinson and Njoku are there probably because they have a little bit more runway than Kittle does. But I think Kittle smashes them on a per game basis this year.
This is where philosophies have changed because I have Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren at 5 and 6.
And I've got them at 7 and 8 because I don't know what to do with them yet.
I have Hawkinson at 10. I have 7 you guys are going to hate these next. Well, you might not hate 8, Joe. Jackson's going to hate both of these. 7 is Dalton Kincaid. 8 is Kyle Pitts. He fucking hates them. I know it. Number 9, Tucker Kraft, baby. I'm taking that stance. I love this guy. I think he's going to have a huge breakout this year. Not like a, top 3 tight end breakout, but he's going to be a guy who we are confident that he's a yearly top tight end.
I've got Andrews at 9, Tucker Kraft at 10, and then Terrence Ferguson 11, Ingram 12, Jonnu 13, and then back to back I've got the fail sons Pitts and Kincaid. Like they're there. I want them to be good, and they're just not. And I'm just being honest with myself.
Their range is so wide, right? Like I could have them at the back of that too. I have Andrews at 14 and Njoku at 13. So I think I put the older guys a little bit lower than you, where I have Ferguson 11, Arroyo 12, right after Hawkinson at 10. So Jackson,
Can I tell you guys a secret? Can I tell you guys a secret real quick?
Tell me.
By the way, I did take Jerry Jeudy one spot ahead of Devonta in that league, which
still on that.
He's been looking this whole time. He's been quiet. He's been trying to figure out what happened.
How did I miss that guy?
Joe has a secret.
I'm trying to tell you guys a secret.
Though. My team's so good. Unbelievable.
Really want to put Theo Johnson and Brendan Strange in my top 12 dynasty tight ends. But please don't tell anyone.
I mean, here's the thing. Once you get past 10 or something, somewhere in there,
it's whatever.
I mean, honestly, because I was like Tucker Kraft or Terrence Ferguson.
Yeah.
Trav?
Close. Right. I have Terrence Ferguson at 9 or Terrence Ferguson at 11, Tucker Kraft at 9. So I have Kraft a couple spots ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So you've steamed him all the way up.
6
so
of one, half a dozen of the other.
It's tough. I mean, I don't hate the way that you're ranking your tight ends because you're ranking on like potential upside and because there's Kelce still alive. Like, he's still going to be.
Have him because he's so hard. Like
tight end 21 or something.
I've got him at
prioritizing, right?
I've got him at 20.
23 for me.
Yeah. I mean, you could make a case for him to be higher, and I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing with tight end is like, it's just sort of like, unless you have one of the top guys, you're really just playing value at that point. Like just because you don't really know. Like I've seen guys like in the startup, they reached for Loveland at like tight end 4 or something. I'm like, good for you. Like good, go for it. Maybe that's a good pick, but like, maybe it's not. We have no idea. Like tight end is so mercurial. It's so difficult to pin down. I'll just take a few shots on, some late guys if I don't have a stud.
Yeah, I agree. It's all upside, right? That's why I want to put Theo Johnson and Brenton Strange up there. They're RAS score monsters. I've got Elijah Arroyo in there, Mason Taylor. Even though Mason Taylor's not a RAS score monster, he's good enough. He's in the high 8s, right? But he's presumably could be the number 2 wide receiver on his team. Yeah, so I basically just go upside after the proven producers, right? And that stops at Jonnu Smith. And then you got Pitts and Kincaid still upside there, even though they've broken our hearts.
Yeah. You got Jonnu over those two?
Yeah, man. That last season happened, and he's also an athletic freak. That happened, right?
Interesting.
We've been waiting for it forever, and it happened. So
he's older though.
He is, which is why he's outside of the top 12. But I'm still interested.
Yeah. Where do you guys have Turd?
Oh, dude.
I gotta scroll. Hold on.
Yeah.
Turd Ferguson for any listeners. Turd Ferguson is Jake Ferguson.
29.
I've got him at 28. I've got him at 28. That's too low. We're both too low. We're both too low. I'm gonna put him ahead of Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I have him at 20.
I don't know if I'm moving him that
right
high.
ahead of Theo Johnson.
How dare you?
20. No. He's gonna be he's gonna produce nice this year.
I moved him to 25.
I just
moved
him
like right around Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor at Freiermuth.
That team's going to pass the ball a fuckload. And who's going to be the third target getter behind CD and Pickens? It's going to be Turd, baby.
I think you're probably right.
Miles Sanders.
It's just the replaceability of him, right? It's just like I think I'm pretty sure. Like last year when he got hurt, I was very willing to just throw Schoonmaker in my lineup, and he performed.
We have a little,
and he performed just like Ferguson did.
Yes.
Yeah. Hendershot and whatever. I think
they're all the same guy, right? Exactly.
Pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
They should just share one jersey. That way, when they go in, they're just like, "Here's the jersey. Go ahead."
Totally. They all worship Tucker Kraft as their king. You know what I mean? He's like the alpha of them. I feel like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they eat lunch out of the same lunch pail. Like this is a big lunch pail.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just a fucking whole gang of ham sandwiches.
Sloppy Joes in there. Yeah,
it's like Mary Poppins's bag of ham sandwiches. Yes. It's just endless ham sandwiches.
Yep. They each have an ice cream sandwich in there. They've got a thermos.
Yep. Maybe a juice box. Maybe a juice box and a yogurt.
Sure. Yep.
I'm pretty sure Schoonmaker's actually got like a 9+ RAS score. I'm actually pretty excited about when he gets his turn. When they don't re-sign Ferguson, I'm pretty excited about Schoonmaker.
There you go. Has there ever been a more lunch pail last name than fucking Schoonmaker, by the way?
Schoonmaker,
Like,
no, yeah,
let's hope that guy succeeds, right? For the
Yep.
brand, we want that guy to succeed.
Yeah, right.
Okay, boys.
That
I'm
is
gonna
the
cut
most lunch pail last name ever, right?
It's
I
insane.
can't think of a better one.
It's up there with
Patrick
Scatterman.
Fryermuth would like a word.
Right.
Amen to that, brother.
Yep.
Amen to that. Yeah. Okay. And with that, we are going to wrap this bad boy up. I think this was good, but boys, to break the fourth wall for our listeners, we had not really a clue what we were going to talk about up to about 5 minutes before this episode, but we decided to pull it together and make it happen as we do. Love you boys for that. We can do it at any time.
Got some exciting stuff coming up, though.
We can lay down some fantasy game here. So yeah, it was fun. We do have some exciting stuff to talk about. Jax, do you want to lay that out for the listeners and give them a little bit of a sneak preview as to what they can expect for the upcoming episodes?
Yeah, a little bit. I just think we're going to group some of these teams. We're going to talk a little bit more team centric, try and break down some of the depth charts and things like that. Some of the different groupings of teams as we see them. Some of the bottom teams where we can get some value, things like that. So yeah, we've got to probably do 5 or 6 teams a week before we get through the entire NFL. But we're not going to go by division. We've got some cool ways to group them up, and we'll try and figure it all out together.
Yeah, I think that's going to be super fun too, because by the end of it, we're going to have gotten through every team. And so we are going to basically have spoken about every relevant fantasy player, every fantasy player who seems relevant, who probably shouldn't be relevant. So I think this is going to be a really fulsome dynasty rundown of all of these teams.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be a good way for our listeners to kind of enter into the season, so I think it's going to be fun. I love getting into player takes and offensive situation takes too.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
it's kind of
right
wheelhouse for old T-Rav. So I'm going to
Yep.
be digging into this.
And Joe can prepare.
I was going to say, what we're going to do is layer in projections at the team level. So that way, that's going to help refine our rankings a little bit too, and help us see kind of where we're right and wrong on this stuff. So I think that's a really important part to it. So excited about that. That's all coming very soon.
Absolutely. And of course, go get your copy of the UN Score wide receiver model if you have those rookie drafts left, or if you want to find some potential breakouts, some post-hype sleepers, some guys that you might want to sell high right now. You can use the UN Score wide receiver model for that at shop.theundroppables.com. Follow us on the socials. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on that YouTube channel and leave a comment to show some love. For Joe Quavius Kuvatakis, for Mr. Miyagi Jax Falcone, I am Trav. We will see you next week. Peace.